Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Ocean's 8, starring Sandra Bullock, Kate Blanchett, Anne Hathaway, Mindy Kaling, Sarah Paulson, Awkwafina, Rihanna, and Helena Bonham Carter, and directed by Gary Ross. Now, before I get into this show, I must confess, I've seen this movie twice, and because of this director being known as the director of these movies, how was he a good choice again? Remind me? Well, let's get into it so we can find this out. Debbie Ocean, played by Sandra Bullock, who I've always enjoyed seeing in the movies, like these ones, for example. And her brother is Danny Ocean, who was played by George Clooney, who unfortunately died off screen, and it is said from the start of this movie. And I like her character in this movie. She's charming and has charisma, and when it's appropriate timing. And she's always fun to watch, and as she gets out of prison, she calls her closest partner and friend Lou, played by Kate Blanchett, who I enjoy in this movie for making vodka and water, and she's a good partner to Debbie. Debbie, after she's released, she robs a beauty store and stays at a hotel with a credit card of a couple who stay at the hotel and steals from the Randalls, which was rather funny in a comedic kind of way, and she calls Lou to pull off a job to get back the person who put her in prison in the first place, and I really liked this plot. Reuben, returned by Elliot Gould, was a pleasant cameo, paying respects to Danny, and I really enjoyed that cameo. Debbie goes to Claude Becker's art shop, and Claude is the person who put Debbie in prison, and he's the person she's going to put in prison, and at the same time steals jewels from Daphne Kluger, played by Anne Hathaway. And that, as a part of a plot, works for me. Hathaway, like in The Dark Knight Rises, I was afraid she was going to be the villain, until, the end of the movie, and I always enjoy seeing her in the movies in general. Rose Wheel, played by Helena Bonham Carter, is a dresser, and I like Miss Carter's character in this movie. She has an interesting arc of getting Daphne's dress all nice and beautiful. Amita, played by Mindy Kaling. I was not always a fan of hers in other movies because she bugs the crap out of me, but here her character was just okay, but a better character in mine is Nineball, played by Rihanna, and she's a good character with a very good skill, and I really enjoyed that character. Constance, played by Awkwafina, is a fun character who gets slippery hands, and she's a lot of fun to watch in this movie. But Debbie's other friend, who has a family named Tammy, played by Sarah Paulson, I find beautiful to watch in this movie, and I enjoyed her here. I think these characters are really funny together and can pull off the comedy very well, even if they're not comedians. I like the scene when Daphne panics about being huge, but Rose calms her down, and the way the two actresses played that scene was very good and well done in a well-done scene, with both very convincing performances. Tammy gets a job where she seats famous celebrities, like Katie Holmes, for example, which works at a part of the plan, and it's a great setup for the plot of this movie. They run into a problem where the guards have to get the jewels off of Daphne's neck, and Nineball's sister solves that problem with the magnet, and she fixes it with a good suspenseful scene of them pulling off a heist. So the heist is going while everyone is seated in the reserved tables, and Daphne gets a taste of the soup and vomits it out of her system, and it feels like some of this is repeated from the George Clooney version of Ocean's 11, like Lou finding out Debbie is getting Claude Becker in prison for what he did to her, which was explained earlier in the film, and they make the guards believe someone took it off, and the jewels of Daphne's neck, and Amita takes the jewels off the necklace. But I like the way how they just kick everyone out and just make everybody wait until they decide to find the necklace. Detective John Fraser, played by James Corden, is an interesting plot at the end of the movie to solve the mystery of who stole the jewels, and he was rather hilarious in this movie. When Daphne finds out Debbie's group, including Rose, was involved of stealing the jewels, and she wants in on tricks Claude Becker into having a relationship with her earlier in the movie, I like that fooled you moment of the film. Yen, played by a different actor, I think, is here, steals the museum merchandise, and I thought was hilarious because at first I thought it was Shabo Keen, but I believe now it's different actors, so that was another good fooled you moment of the film. Claude Becker gets arrested and the Ocean's 8 split up with their own lives, and Debbie takes a drink for Danny, but I swear to God I thought Matt Damon would make a cameo in this movie. But I was wrong. That, as an ending, honored the Ocean's 11 George Clooney trilogy, and I admired that about this movie. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 7.6 out of 10. This was a really fun movie with fun characters and a really fun plot, and I had a lot of fun with this movie. This is also a very funny film with great shots, and I recommend you see this movie for the fun of it. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me in this whole Ocean's 11 filmography. And until next time, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.